Okay, everybody, welcome to what you need to do in 2015 to create your visibility, or rather what you need to do now to create your visibility in 2015. And I am Meredith Eisenberg.
And I am Jasper Blake.
And the reason why we decided to hold this webinar now, right before Thanksgiving, is because it's really tempting to just sort of let your business slide into oblivion, like right now, because things start getting busy, holiday parties start happening, and you start thinking, oh my goodness, so this year's over, I need to start thinking into 2015. The problem with that is that it's the foundations that you set right now that are going to get you more solidly into 2015. So I wanted to quickly start out. I wanted to say hi to Catherine. And any of you are on the chat, please feel free to say hey and let us know you're there, because this is a different platform than we usually use, but we're trying to make a point about recycling content. So we are on video. Normally you only get to hear us. So this is something new and different for us to try. So why don't we start with some introductions. So my name is Meredith Eisenberg. I've been in the online marketing space for about 8 years now, which makes me older than Methuselah, I guess, right? I have been helping clients create online businesses basically from scratch, and my clients are mostly solopreneurs and they're mostly coaches. And I've seen this holiday slide happen. And I've seen it not happen. I've seen people make $25,000 in December too. So let's get rocking and rolling. And this is Jasper. So Jasper, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I am the co-host of the podcast Paycheck to Passion. And I guess really the podcasting thing is my speciality. I started off in a bit of social media, but really it's the high visibility stuff like podcasting, which is my particular speciality. And what better time of the year to really make yourself visible when everybody else is hibernating away on their holidays.
Right. And so that's the first thing we're going to talk. And hello, Marissa and Jenny and Shelly and everyone else who said hi. Hi. The first thing I want to talk about is 5 reasons why you need to be working at least a little bit this time of year and not just letting things kind of float away. The first, especially for those of you, and there are a couple on here that deal with corporations and companies, a lot of times companies have money at the end of the year that they need to spend. So if you're not following up with them in a reasonable way, you stand to lose that money. Whereas other people, have gone on the holidays. If you're still plugging along, then you still have, a reason to be there. The second is it's a time of year where everybody is marketing and people are buying and there's a lot of excitement, but not so much in the coaching and goal setting. But people are starting to plan for January. There's not really an iron curtain between 2014 and 2015. So now is a really good time to get your ducks in a row and start moving toward 2015 with some solid plans and some solid thoughts about what you're going to be up to. And so we're going to talk about that. And then finally, it's a great time for holiday offers. People are in a buying mood. People respond really well to Black Friday and Small Business Saturday and all of that. So that's another reason that you just don't want things to really start dropping off in the holidays. So now you guys are probably thinking, okay, Meredith and Jasper, you guys have just turned into the Grinch who stole Christmas. And that isn't our intent at all. Our intent on this webinar is to show you some different things that you can do to get you ahead of the curve, but also at the same time, to show you some easy ways to do it so you can still get out and party and enjoy the holiday season and enjoy the transition, but just be in a really good place for 2015.
Well, and a lot of it, of course, you can actually set up to be running while you're at those parties. So
exactly. You're making money while you party. It just sounds really good.
That does sound good. Yeah.
So I guess the first obvious place and the low-hanging fruit for a lot of people is the offers for Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday. This is a time when everybody is online. Everybody's online, and so people are, or they're traveling in their car or whatever. And so they're on their iPhone. And so it's a good time to catch them. And I know people who've made some really decent money with the Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday offer. And a good thing, don't create anything new. That's the key for this offer, is don't make anything brand new, because that's more work. But if you have some content that even was free content before, like I see Ginny on the line, and she does workshops and workbooks and works with HR people. So she has a lot of materials. Package some of that together into a Black Friday special, or even start booking, do a little bit of a smaller coaching package than you normally would do, like a get start, kickstart, goal setting kind of thing. Make it a little bit less expensive and start booking your calendar into January. I mean, that's a decent Black Friday offer to have. What else?
I don't. Well, I guess especially with content. I mean, content's always good. Ebooks, even courses. I mean, everybody's looking for a bargain, aren't they? That's the key to the whole thing, is to give them a really juicy discount on what you've already got, and then you can sort of sell that on ready. The kind of things that really get people into programs that you would then start in January when you do the upsell to them. Right. So feel free, in the chat, if any of you feel like talking about good Black Friday offers that you've encountered that have been irresistible. What has worked for a lot of my clients that have been coaching for a long time is we pick 2 or 3 of their older programs and we bundle it together and sell it for a discount. So this is stuff that otherwise would be, gathering virtual dust. And we put it together, and it's a good way to make extra money and get people loyal to you into the new year. So that is one way of doing holiday offers, and Small Business Saturday, especially, for people like Erin or people even like Ginny a little bit, or even possibly Shelly, people who have local businesses and have local clients. American Express, if you go to the Small Business Saturday site, they'll actually promote your business. They will let you put a little ad on there. And I don't know how much traffic it gets. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but you're on American Express's website for a minute, so it's going to be good traffic for you. And so you can go to smallbusinesssaturday.com and get all of the information on all of the festivities around that. The real thing about the Small Business Saturday is that everybody knows it's coming up, so they're looking for those. And they're looking for opportunities. Exactly. They're looking for those offers because they know people are going to be out there offering sort of discounts on their regular packages. So it's a really good time to actually look at those and see what's available. Because and to remind people that even though your clientele might not be local, you are still a small business. Yeah. And you're still a local business in that you do business somewhere, even if your clients aren't necessarily in New Mexico, which is where we live, or, Arizona, just to get out there and say, yeah, we're a small business, support us too. And it's really an opportunity for people to get to know you and what you do without sort of necessarily, sort of having to invest heavily to do so. So it's a good opportunity for people to actually get to know you and what you do on a relatively affordable basis. That come the new year, they'll hopefully come back for more. Right. So the next thing we want to talk about is podcast audios, because we can't do a call without talking about podcasting. And this webinar is going to actually be turned into a video podcast. That's true. We hope. So we'll see. But we're going to think about turning it into a video podcast at any rate if it turns out. So is an amazing time to launch a podcast. And I know you guys are thinking, just shoot me in the head now, Meredith. Really, I am busy. I do not want to go through all the trouble of setting up a podcast in November, December. But here's the thing. You don't have to actually, first of all, you can do short, little 10-second. I mean, one of the top podcasts on the audio podcast is called $100 MBA. It's 1-minute tips. Yeah. So the guy did 60 of them, and he, releases them 3 times a week. So that would be something that would be very easy for you to set up and do right now. And it's pretty easy to get a podcast up and running. But the second thing is podcasts don't have to be forever.
And this is the thing that you need to remember. And even if you look in iTunes and look at the top podcasts, they aren't forever. They're mini series. They're focusing on one person. You know, Actors Studio interview with John Hamm. And it's like 3 episodes of John Hamm, and then it's done. And so what you can do is put a podcast up, make it a short 5-episode thing or 10-episode thing, have it be 10-minute tips, and you're done. But there are a few people on this call that I know have a lot of content kind of hanging out in their hard drives, in their archives, video and audio. And so what you could do for that is just have a little snippet and just introduce it. Say, hey, this is Meredith Eisenberg with your tip of the day. I gave this tip on a webinar I did recently. Include the tip, include a tail, and you're done. So it's just a little bit of editing. The reason why I'm pushing for this right now so hard for you guys, and you're going, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work, Meredith, that's crazy. The reason why I'm pushing you toward it is because nobody is launching podcasts right now because it's into the holidays. Yet everybody is in their car driving for tens and dozens and 20 hours, 25 hours. I mean, our Thanksgiving drive is 10 hours each way. And yes, I'm going to have my headphones on and I'm going to be listening to podcasts because it's either that or Harry Potter. So I think I'd rather do something. Yeah, Harry Potter again. So, you know, or my husband's choice of music. It's not necessarily mine. So those are sort of my choices. And so podcasts are great. And so people are going to be looking for things to listen to on their long plane rides, on their long car rides. And then in addition to that, not so many people are launching. So you have a much better chance of getting up into new and noteworthy with, you know, with your podcast. So that would be, you know, something that I would really strongly recommend. The other thing I would recommend, which is a corollary to that, is podcast video. And that's even in some ways easier because, yeah, Catherine's a podcast junkie. Podcast video in some ways is an easier thing even to do over the holidays because you are in the video, you can top and tail it, you can have a short little 3-minute video. It's stuff that you already have in your archives, so you can put it together and just send it out. Now, people aren't going to be listening to that in their cars as much. They might be watching it on an airplane, but it's a much easier to get to the top of new and noteworthy with a video than it is with an audio. So maybe you could even do both. If you have webinars, it's pretty easy to go into Camtasia and just separate the audio from the video, and then you have 2 different podcasts. So it's pretty easy to do, especially if you can get someone to help you with the technology of it. And so we have some resources. If you need some help that way, just let us know.
Yeah, the other thing about that is that you can use it in 2 different ways. One is to actually attract attention, which is the podcast bit. Podcasts are all about attracting attention, but you can also package them up and use them as either as a free opt-in offer or even maybe like a cheap tripwire offer, for instance. Especially at this time of year, you can offer it, say, you know, it's value $49, but it's going for $19 or something like that. And even though the material may be available for free on the podcast, it's going to be 2 different audiences, because the audience on the podcast will then get it and then may go back to your website, which is fair enough. But people that find you in other ways straight to your website can then probably won't find it on the podcast as well. They're going to be 2 different audiences for the large part.
Right. And that actually brings us to sort of our 5th thing, which I guess I'll go out of order because you guys don't know the order I originally had, is when you create these videos and these podcasts, especially from material that you already have, you can use them sprinkled throughout your email system. So, you know, we recently just redid our beginning email. Like when somebody first subscribes to our list, they get a couple emails from us just basically introducing ourselves. We have a really silly picture on the front when we were over at Aaron Sanchez's house, recording our podcast. And we talk about what we do and what we're about. And we have some sample podcasts on there for people to listen to. And so the stuff that you're creating, you can use over and over and over again, especially if it's little teeny tiny tips which is what I sort of would recommend to do now, is like a limited series of small tips.
That's the
You
thing.
can use them in the funnels.
And this works just as well for blogs, by the way, for recycling blog posts, because there's a lot of really good content in there. And if you're blogging, 2 or 3 days a week, like we are with our podcasts, then that material accumulates very quickly. And you can then, a couple of weeks, months later, you can go back and reuse that information, repackage it in a slightly different way. The five tips to do so and so, and you just reuse that content.
Right, and that leads me to the next recommendation I have, which is to create an editorial calendar where you plot out sort of themes for the month. And so think about some themes and go ahead and put them in the chat that you would focus on in November and December. So one of them would be, like for Cedar, who runs a boot camp here in town. That's an excellent boot camp. It's awesome. So November and December, you're trying not to eat too much for the holidays. You're trying not to be stressed. In January, you're reaching your goals for New Year's and things like that. So you plan out your calendar kind of based on different themes. And then you create content that can be used in multiple different ways. So you can have a blog post on how not to gain weight in the holidays. So that's a great, nice blog post. You could do a webinar on the same thing. So the blog post could be an advertisement for your webinar, which is what we did with this. I posted a blog post on don't give up for the holidays. And then from that blog post, I encouraged people to sign up for the webinar. But then I could take that blog post again, and I could quickly go into Audio Acrobat or Audacity or any number of audio recording types of things, and I can make that into a podcast episode. And then I could record it in the podcast. I could turn on my camera and do it as a video podcast, or even do a screenshot behind it. So that turns into a video podcast. And then I can use that piece of content again, all those different ways in the emails that I send to my customers.
Yeah.
So you don't ever want to do anything once, especially in the holidays when you're super busy. You want one thing to be able to be used multiple times. And so now you're saying to me, probably, well, aren't my people going to get really sick of all this content all at the same time, all over again? Repeated. No. And here's why. The reason why they're not going to get tired of it is that they're not going to see it but once. You can send it to them 11 times. Think about who you follow. Do you listen to every single thing they say? Do you read every single email they send? No, you don't. You read things and listen to things and hear things that are created in the way that you need them created.
Well, there's also the aspect of, it's a bit like with sales. They say you need at least like 13 touch points before somebody's ready to buy. And this is sort of, in a way, part of that process, because even if you use the same material over and over again, but you're repackaging it in a slightly different way, right, nobody's even going to detect whether they read it before.
Right, especially if you read it and then they do it as a, if you look at the big gurus, right? So right now, Product Launch Formula is being launched, and Ryan Dice is writing a lot of emails about that. He tells the same stories all the time. I've taken 5 of his classes, right? And it's all the same thing. He tells a story about the candles, and he tells a story about the guitar picks, and it's always the same. So don't be afraid to reuse and re-talk about your content over and over again, because in the end, that's gonna be what gets sticky and what stays in people's minds. But the other reason why people aren't going to get this over and over again is you are going to set up your emails correctly. And this is a great thing to do like the last 2 weeks of December, when really people have given up and you're plugging along and following up with people, but things are really quiet. You want to go through your email system, and you want to basically make it so the person getting the email is getting the right email. So you want to set up a funnel for them. You want to have a funnel to introduce people to you that people only get once. You want to have another one that, if people are actually clicking and active in your email, then you want to do that. And then you want to have another funnel for people who aren't as active to bring them back into activity with you. And so it all goes together nicely. And we're going to be doing a little bit more training on this later on next year, because I think it's important. And you're going to notice that the emails you get from us are changing, because we are changing the way that we're doing emails in our business based on giving you what you need. And this is possible for us to do because of all the content we're creating with the podcast. So now we're creating a piece of content 3 times a week. We're interviewing a different entrepreneur. And so that gives us lots of different viewpoints to share with our clients. And so that's a really important point. And so what I'd like to offer to all of you guys is I would be really happy to sit down with you for 30 minutes, anybody on this call, and talk about ways that you can use these different things in your particular funnel and in your particular business. Because I want to see what questions you have. I want to see where you're getting stuck with this, and I want to see how I can help different people recycle their content. So if you want to take me up on that, just shoot me an email at meredith@mereditheisenberg.com, or after the end of this webinar, I'm going to shoot you over to my scheduling page, which is, I'll put it in the comments for you. Meet me. Okay. Anyway, you can shoot over there and make an appointment for 30 minutes to just talk through your funnel and your plan for the holidays, because I think it's really important to spend a little bit of time this week thinking about how you're going to do December, because there's great opportunities there for you.
And a lot of this is really building people up to January, because January people get to get going.
Right.
There's been, everybody feels the lull over the holiday period, really from Thanksgiving right the way through December, and by the time they get to the beginning of January, they're really motivated to get something going, because they feel the lull.
Right.
So what you're doing really now with your content in this particular time is building people up ready for that January. So it's a bit of a process to sort of keep them interested until they're really ready to sort of get going.
Right, and the Black Friday special is a great way to let people jump on board now to be ready to rock and roll in January. So I want you guys to type in questions that you have, because I would love to answer them for you. And I know that I've sort of spewed out a lot of information really quickly, and I want to make sure that you guys are all getting something out of this call. And while you're typing in the questions, I want to kind of tell you about our strategy with this webinar so you can get an idea of how content recycling can work. So we're doing this webinar today, and we talked about 5 different things for about 2 or 3 minutes each. And so our next step, or actually lovely Jasper's next step, poor guy, is to edit this into 5 separate smaller tips kind of podcasts. So it'll be 2 to 3 minutes per tip with a quick beginning and a quick ending. So that's going to become a video podcast that we are going to release in December about holiday marketing, just to see if we can get a new and noteworthy. We've managed to do it with everyone we've tried so far with their video podcast. Every single person we have managed their video podcast has made it into new and noteworthy, including ours. So that was exciting. And then after that, we are going to use these little bits in an engagement series. So little bits of content that people get in their email. So people can opt in for a free holiday marketing series, and they'll get these 5 emails sent to them one day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. So basically this was 4 or 5 hours of work, and we've gotten 3 separate content streams from this. If we wanted to take it a little further, and if we had outlined this call a little better, so I'll admit that it's a little scattered because I get excited and passionate about things, right? we could have it transcribed and we could turn it into an ebook. So then you'd have an ebook to offer people in addition to the different content. So this whole thing is one giant recycling expedition for content. And it was just, we're building our list. We're building our list with the recycled content. We're building our podcast customers, and it's all in one package. So Shelly had a question. Besides Audio Acrobat, what can you use for a podcast? Lots of things. We use for our audio podcast, we use Skype, and we record audio on the Skype, and that's with somebody else involved.
Yeah.
And we use Pamela. You could use Audacity. Audacity is a free audio editing software. So if you're doing a podcast by yourself, Shelly, and you're basically, recording all the episodes and it's just you.
Just you talking, yeah.
Then I would recommend that. I would go ahead and get a USB microphone and I would plug it into the computer and I would just maybe even do 10 of them at a time or maybe 5, quick tips kind of things, and just get them done and then chop them up into little bits and host them for the podcast. Now, Audio Acrobat does hosting. And in addition to hosting, there's also a wide variety of options. We use Instant Customer because it does a bunch of other stuff and we can host our clients' podcasts on there. But we recommend Libsyn is very good and very inexpensive. SoundCloud is another possibility that you could use. Amazon S3 is possible, but it's confusing if you're a newbie and don't like being all techie. It's cheap, but it's hard. So you kind of have to make your choice there. So those are some different options for podcasting, hosting.
Yeah, in terms of video podcasts, again, your cell phone camera is just fine, really. Just make sure that you're relatively close to it so that you get a good sound. But we actually produce the podcast for Michelle Sisson, who does the Entrepreneurs Take Action video podcast on iTunes. And that's what she does. She sits there in her hotel room and knocks off 4 of them. She does 1 a week, and we top and tail it for her, and then it's done. And it's pretty good quality. That's the thing about cell phones these days. The video and sound quality is perfect, really.
Yeah, and we're doing this one with a remote webcam. So we have a webcam up on the back of the laptop, so you're not seeing our faces, and and this is just Google Hangout. So we'll have a recording at the end of this, and that will be done. Okay, Spike and Pummel. I don't know what that is, Shelly. You need to. I think he said top and tail. So that's like putting the beginning on the podcast and putting the ending on the podcast. Yeah. Oh, Shelly doesn't do video. You know what, Shelly? I don't either, which is obvious from this whole production.
Well, the thing about video is that you've got the added benefit of YouTube.
Right.
YouTube is a phenomenal place to get attention. The other thing you can do in YouTube is you can list. So if you've got like a series of 5, you can actually put them together in a list. So if somebody sees one of them, then they've got instant access to the other 4. And it's just a really great traffic driver, really. The idea is to really gain the attention that you get from YouTube, because YouTube is the second most used search engine after Google itself. It's also, it's one of Google's products, so of course you get really good search engine juice from it. And it's really just a traffic driver. It's a way to capture that huge volume of YouTube traffic and drive people to your website.
Well, you can also cheat. And up until now, Jasper and I have been the king and queen of video cheating. And video cheating, it's not really cheating, it's still video, right? Is you get a PowerPoint presentation and you talk behind the slides.
Yeah. Oh, well,
and that's another way to do it, and that's perfectly legitimate too.
Yeah. So what we do,
our video podcast is exactly that.
It is. We have a question that we ask all our guests, which is basically, what are your 5 tips? We take that snippet of audio and then create a PowerPoint presentation behind it. I mean, it is more work. It's far easier to sit down there and with the cell phone camera in front of you and just talk into it for 4 minutes. So you pay as many takes your choice, really. But video is a very powerful medium. You're much more likely to get ranked in iTunes with video than you are audio, just purely because there's less people doing it.
Yeah, but the other side of that is you'll have fewer downloads, even though you're ranked higher. because people aren't going to iTunes yet?
Well, the thing about
Or-
audio is that you can be doing other things while
Right.
you're listening to it. So,
Right.
so like Catherine said, on the bike ride or walking the dog or going to the gym or, traveling 500 miles to your relos over Thanksgiving, you can listen to that while you're doing those things.
Right.
With video, you have
It's a
to
little
sort of watch
trickier.
it. Yeah. But then, that's one of the reasons why we do both.
Yeah.
Because you capture both.
Well, and I
both
think the early exposure on the New and Noteworthy page in iTunes is really helpful.
Well,
And you don't need much. I mean, for the audio, there's actually a process that you need to go through to get that thing ranked. And it's a lot harder work because there are more audio podcasts. For
Yeah.
the video podcasts, I've seen people rank with like 3 episodes and 2 reviews.
Yeah, no, certainly.
So, yeah.
But again, the point of this is that this is all reusable content and you can use it in multiple different ways. That's the
Right.
that's
And then the
magic.
secondary point is that now is a really good time. So, I mean, it's an excellent time to do it because not everyone's doing it. So I want to encourage you guys to make some content or to reuse some content now to get you in a really good place for January.
Yeah, well, explain that a bit further, because I think that was something that, when we were putting this together, I was really surprised at, was the fact that this is such a good time of year to do this because so few people are actually creating content at this time of year. So
Right.
you've actually got far better chance
Yeah.
of being seen, surprisingly enough,
Well, yeah, Goins, and I don't remember his first.
Jeff Goins.
Jeff
Yeah,
Goins,
yeah.
he launched his podcast last year over Christmas, and it was really successful. And what he says is, I think it was just because I launched it over Christmas. Because everybody was on iTunes, but nobody was producing for iTunes at that point. So it's a good time to get going. Now, if you need help with that again, I'm pitching my calls because I really want to talk with you guys and see if I can help.
Well, and it's so much easier to give people specific advice when you know exactly what it is they're trying to achieve. You can talk in general terms and get the sort of idea, but it's not until you actually hear what people are trying to do that you can really give that very specific advice in
Right.
terms of how to make it work for them. So
Right. So if you're interested in that, again, email me or go to meetme.so/Meredith E, and we'll set up a time to do a 30-minute quick brainstorming call so that we can really figure out you and what you need and how to structure things, because I'm sort of curious to see what people's needs are and what they have to try to develop a system for you guys in the new year that makes it even easier.
Well, that's really a lot of what we're trying to do with Paycheck to Passion, because we need to know what you guys need so that we can put together programs that will be able to help you to get to that next level. So it works both ways. We can help you while you're helping us get that together as well.
Great. So does anybody have any further questions? Because Jasper and I can rattle on about this forever, but I want to make sure that I'm answering your questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about editorial calendars,
Yes.
because I think people get really scared and they automatically think when I tell them editorial calendar that they're becoming a magazine. Well, you kind of are becoming a magazine, but what you really need to do is really think through your message and the different parts of your message, and sort of on a monthly basis figure out, okay, so this is what I want to talk about this month. So in December, I'm going to be talking a lot about video podcasting because I think it's a good thing to do in the holidays. So we're going to be doing a lot with that in December. So then we'll have some blog posts for that. We'll take the material, so we'll schedule, get a little spreadsheet, or you can do it in WordPress even. WordPress has a plugin called Editorial Calendar that you can download, and you can actually move your posts around. And, okay, I want to blog once a week. I want my episodes for my podcast to be 3 days a week. So I get a spreadsheet, and I, have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then across the top, I have, blog, social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever I'm using. And then, down the side, week 1, week 2, week 3, and then I just plug and play. But my goal in doing the editorial calendar is to make sure that each little bit of content shows up on there 3 times in different formats.
Right.
Because I don't want to have to think of the same thing over and over again, or because my brain just isn't that big, right? so I need to keep things really simple and easy for Meredith, right? And so, come up with maybe 5 things you want to say, and then fill in the squares of those different things in different formats throughout the month. And if you can do that, even 3 months in advance, that's going to save you so much work. One of the things I do for one of my clients is I help ghost blog for her for a blogging challenge that requires you to write a post every day for a month. I can't survive that, especially if I'm entering in the blog challenge writing as me, and then I'm writing as her, and I'm getting a little schizophrenic, I can't survive that challenge without having those blocks in place. And do I always write what's on the calendar for me to write that day? Never. But at least it's there. So if I'm stuck for something to write, there's an idea right there of something for me to do.
I think also if you're in a specific field, if you've got a particular niche, I saw Joyce was on the call, and she sort of teaches people how to create businesses, embroidery businesses, really, and whatever field you're in, there's going to be a series of sort of events or conferences or things going on that are relevant to your particular niche. And one of the best things you can do is really plot those dates into your calendar right at the beginning of the year, so that you've got a really good build up then to those events, because people are going to be tuning in to what's happening with
right, and the holidays is one of those things.
Exactly, that's right. So they're big hubs of activity where there's a lot of interest in those particular things. So if you have got your content well planned out, you can be part of the information that people find when they're searching for, the embroidery conference of 2014 or 15.
Yeah. And yes, Shelley, I did write 2 posts a day. A couple of times. I think I did it 2 or 3 times where I was in it and she was in it. And I wouldn't have survived it without having a good editorial calendar. It was really challenging. But the nice thing about writing that much is that it sort of clears out your head, and so you can write that much. It's the same thing with the podcasting, and that's why we really recommend that people do it in lumps or seasons, or a bunch all at once, because it sort of takes a while to get the momentum going, and then once it's going, you can keep going rather than starting and stopping and starting and stopping and starting and stopping. Okay, so Marissa has a question. All right, so what is an editorial calendar? Ha ha ha. Okay, so an editorial calendar is your internal calendar of your content. You don't, unless you have a really big website where people are clamoring to guest post for you or whatever, you would never publicize it. You would never be telling people what content you're going to be putting on your blog. But it's super helpful for you to have the spreadsheet and the schedule of kind of what you're doing when, just like menu planning in a way, so you can see where you can use those leftovers. Yeah, you can see where you can use similar ingredients in different pots and different stews. It's the same thing with an editorial calendar.
Yeah, it's very tempting, I think, when you have a blog, and probably Catherine knows this, it's very tempting just to write what you feel about that particular day, time, or week, or whatever. But whenever you're creating content, you're creating it for a specific purpose. So if you've got a plan to that purpose, then you're actually going to get a lot further with your content than you are if you're just randomly writing stuff that happens to interest you.
And I can say that the times in my business when I've had a really solid editorial calendar, my traffic has been better, my blog consistency has been better, my list grows faster.
And it's a way to get people to keep coming back for more, because if you've got a plan for, especially a series, so you tell people, oh, I'm going to be writing 10 blog posts about how to do whatever it is, and then they'll come back because they'll read the first one, or they'll come in the second one and say, oh yeah, I need to see next week's.
Right, and then once you have those 10 series done, you can turn them back into an email series, an ebook, a podcast miniseries, a video podcast miniseries. So the possibilities for that content are fairly wide ranging and limited. And so again, if you wanted to talk to me, we could sort of begin to plan that out on our strategy session too. Okay, so Catherine wants to know the problem with random rambling. Okay, so you guys are listening to this webinar. I don't know. Maybe if we had been a little better planning, it probably would have been a bit more organized. So
less rambling.
Yeah, we did have an outline. I think you want your content to do something, and you want your content to move people along from point A to point B. And if you plan it out in advance, it is easier to turn it into other things and to make short things into a longer thing. Yeah. A lot of people have written their books on their blog.
Okay.
And so it's like that. And so we highly recommend it. And right now we're our editorial calendar is a little squidgy at the moment. And we missed out on an opportunity. Just this past Saturday was America Recycles Day, which is back in my past. I was the recycling girl for Fairfax County. And so I was in charge of getting all the little kids to recycle. Well, I mean, it was really their parents, but it was really the kids, because if you give a 10-year-old a mission, their parents will do it. So that was our strategy for increasing the recycling rate in Fairfax County, was to target 5th graders. But I did America Recycles Day every year for 7 years. And I'm like, I'm talking all about recycling content, and we're doing nothing about that. It didn't even hit our editorial calendar because I didn't even think about it till just now. So it will go in my project management system. I use Asana. I will make a note of it to definitely do an America Recycles Day content event next year. And it won't be on a Saturday either, so it'll be easier.
I mean, that's the thing about the events that are relevant to you in particular, is to get those in your calendar right from the start so that you can plan around them. We did some content for a guy who runs a business that delivers food for restaurants that don't have their own delivery service. And one of the things that we put together for him, there's a whole list of National
Ravioli Day, National Lasagna Day. And, we're on that list because we created it. So now I know, I can say it's National Pizza Day. We must go to pizza today.
Yeah, but it was almost like a daily or at least weekly opportunity for him to market particular restaurants through particular foods. And there's always going to be something that is, even if it's not necessarily an industry event, there are certain things that happen throughout the year, like Black Friday, for instance, which you can make relevant to your particular field.
Right.
So the thing is to identify what they are and when they are, get them in the calendar, and then plan your content that will maximize the effect.
And there's a whole run-up in November around Small Business Saturday.
Exactly.
This week is Global Entrepreneurship Week, and tomorrow is Women Entrepreneurs Day. And there's and then I guess Wednesday, I don't know for sure, I know these 2 days, but the rest of it, like there's Tech Day, there's Art Day, there's all kinds of different.
Thank you, Catherine.
HolidayInsights.com. There you go.
For that.
And so you can grow, do a whole special Small Business Saturday series.
The reason why these are so important is because there's going to be a lot of people who are tuning in to those particular events. So if your content is part of, the material that people can access, through SEO and searches and everything else, then there's much more likelihood that they will find yours than and as well as anybody else's. But if you're not writing that content relevant to that event, you can't tap into it. So it's really tapping into a bigger demand for a particular subject matter.
Right. So does anyone have any further questions? Okay. So I just want to, one more time, right? I want to encourage you to get with me and do a strategy session, because I would love to talk to you about this, because looking at the people who are in the chat, and so those are those of you who are talkative and chatters, looking at the people who are in the chat right now, you represent a whole wide variety of businesses. And I would love to know what your challenges are around content and what your challenges are around marketing in the holidays, and really see if we can come up with a plan to get you in the right place. So, to do that, go to meetme.so/Meredith and schedule a session, and we can talk about your needs and sort of what we can do to really get you in a good position, so that instead of starting over in January, you already have momentum and you're charging through the gate, which is what I kind of see and wish for all of you.
And really, that's what she's best at. I've seen her in action, and she's awesome at this. So.
I don't think you're supposed to have your partner be doing testimonials on the. But anyway, there we are.
No, but yeah, well worth the opportunity. So sign up now.
Okay, so what I want, those of you who are left on this call, and there are quite a few, I want you to put into the chat one thing that you are going to commit to do around holiday marketing in the next 2 weeks. All right, we're waiting.
Yeah. Don't all rush at once.
Yeah, don't all rush at once. And I'm not really going to hold you to it, although I might email you and check up on see how you're doing. So.
Accountability for the holidays.
Yes, and see, nobody's putting anything, but there's a delay, so we need to wait a little bit. Okay. Catherine has scheduled it. Awesome. There you go. She's doing the strategy session. Yay. Actually, I'm doing a longer session with her. She's one of my blueprint clients. That's sort of another thing that I do in addition to the 30-minute brainstorm sessions. Another thing that I offer is more of a deep dive, and it's a couple of phone calls over a month where we construct your whole funnel and your whole plan. So that is, that's kind of Patricia. Yeah. Yay! She's going to finish uploading the videos that she created. Good for you.
One of our guests on Paycheck to Passion was Lynn Ruby, who is a video marketing expert, and she's got this great a quote from a bit of Forrester research that said that 60 seconds of video was worth 1.8 million words of text.
Wow.
So,
wow.
So if that doesn't persuade you to get in front of a video camera, I don't know what will.
Okay, so Joyce is creating her editorial calendar. Good for you, Joyce. And Ginny is doing a Black Friday discount on her training. And Shelly is starting over with her email marketing. And Marissa, sorry about that, is setting up an editorial calendar, and Dean is going to package a product and get that offer out. Okay, I see you all there. And those of you who are lurking, because the number of people who've made commitments does not match the number of viewers that I see on the bottom of the screen, but that's okay. If I bully you too much, you won't come next time, so that's fine. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you some ideas to get your products and get your marketing rolling for 2015. Again, I would love to talk to any of you who want to take advantage of a free session. Catherine's giving away copies of her book starting next week. So Catherine, why don't you post a website link where people might go get a copy of your book? And we'll publicize it for you on this podcast just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll see if she can do that before we wrap up.
I'm sure she's copying and pasting as we speak.
Yeah. But so I hope that you guys found it helpful. I would love to talk to any or all of you more about what you're up to and help you create a really good plan to get you sailing into the new year. And I'm waiting for Catherine's link, which it hasn't quite popped up yet. And then also, while you're at it, go ahead and put in the chat if there's anything specific you would like us to cover in a future webinar, because we would love to help you with whatever you need. And so if there's any small part of this webinar today that caught your interest and you would like to know more about, let us know. And that's, we're probably planning on doing this once a month. And, from there. And so Catherine posted her link in the chat, so go ahead and go there and get her book and leave her an awesome review, because we interviewed Catherine and she was amazing and she has great things to say. and great learnings about how to sort of move forward in your social media. And she's been helping us with ours, and it's been amazing since she started that out because we are much more visible than we were before. So go Catherine Simblem of Alamosa, Colorado. So there you go, there's your plug. And otherwise, we will see you guys next time. So we'll probably be doing another one of these in December or January.
Yep.
Okay, cool. See you next time. And I'm going to go ahead and send you over to, if I know how to do this, this is a new thing for me. I'm going to send you over to the page. Maybe not. Okay. Anyway. So I will see you. I will put this one more time. And, okay. Great. Thank you guys all so much. And we'll see you in December.